Welcome everyone to today's video. I'm Toby and this is a brand new phase of PKL action. It's gonna be week 1, day 1 of phase 3, and there's a lot on the line coming into this because 6 spots are up for grabs for the guys in PKL. It's a little different with their format. We'll get into that another day, but it is very interesting how it's all structured. Actually, I can line it down real quick. 3 of the teams will be picked based on their overall performance throughout the league so far, in the whole grand scheme of things. Make that 4, and then you have 1 team that will be qualified directly through first place in this phase, and then the last team, we don't really know what's going to happen with that slot, but they say they're going to make a tournament between when this phase ends and the PUBG Global Championship. So there's going to be like a offline event just for that. It's going to be pretty interesting to see, but nonetheless, let's get into it. 3 teams to look out for. I'm just going to mark them real quick. It's going to be GSP, it's going to be DWG, and it's going to be the STA guys, if you can see them in between here. STA. They are the teams that came, like 3 or 4 of the teams that came from contenders and made it into the PKL. And some of them had a pretty decent day, so look out for them. They are the newcomers, I guess you can say, to the PKL. And everyone else, you should, if you have watched any of PKL before, if you watched any of my analysis stuff, you should know who they are. But first circle pups, boink, there we go. It's an Eastern one. It's not too scary. The only thing is that East is very compound heavy, especially, I mean, this is, keep in mind, this is still played on the old Erangel. So it's very compound heavy. We have some very open areas that are difficult to play around if you don't have vehicles and whatnot. And you don't want to commit too hard to the open too early. At the same time, you don't want to over-aggress on one compound. So it's a little dangerous, whereas to in the west, you have a lot of compounds. You have quarry, swamp. There are like more areas that you can hide in and be close to one another. Whereas to, it's very easy early on to get screwed over. But rotation should be decent enough. It shouldn't be too hard for teams to get things going. Rotations are gonna come in. PO, we saw G. They came in issues early. He went up to scout. Another team comes up. He scouts forward. So PO scouts here, and I just want to showcase to you where it kind of went wrong, because PO wasn't everyone's mind. He was absolutely nuts when he was at the Nations Cup and all that good stuff. So everyone was like, oh, PO, phase 3, woohoo! And what happens here is he scouts forward. I mean, he's looking this way, right, to make sure Loki has a clean rotation. It's clean. Loki pushes, but Pio stays, and that was a bit surprising to me. You heard the vehicles pull up, and I don't know if this is a overconfidence thing that he stayed because he was gonna deal with the guys, but Taman comes up to him and they end up both getting killed. So in the end of thing, Esther and Loki are now they make that Taman and Loki are now all by themselves. So a rough start to the game for Gen G, who were already late on a rotation because, I mean, they got tangled up with world class. Just unfortunate start to the game, but that's what that is. As we move on, and this is where it gets real funny, because now, as we can see, plenty of room for everyone to play around. You got a lot of space on the southern side, and Stalba is open too, but it's not really gonna come into play anyway. But everyone's split. You got OP, they're taking so much ground. Look at this today, and then we'll see in the videos to come, because they were getting a lot of room today. OP, they were getting a lot of room for their splits today. So they're doing their split, all set up, boom, this circle. All of a sudden, we're going from having plenty of space to maneuver with one team down here to this circle where I want to say, I mean, first of all, it's half water. Second of all, because of this field, I mean, what people don't get is they look at the water and think, oh no, this is out. But there's so much of this that is out too. You have the, I mean, in all of this, if we make a marker underneath there, over and around yellow houses, and up and around here, because this is where you have, okay, so it goes right through the warehouse, and then you have Alamo. Alamo, you're most likely not going to stay in because it's so far out on the edge. But of course, I mean, if you have nowhere else to go, then you're probably forced to stick around for a little while longer. But Alamo is there. And then you have Liquid Dip, which is, you can play Liquid Dip, but if there's people on the hills on any side, that's going to make it extremely hard to really get a good position from. Outside, you'll have your vehicles popped, and then 4 guys down there this early on, that's just not what you want to commit to. So there's a lot of this circle that is practically unplayable very, very early on in the game. Which means that, again, if we see all these rotations, we'll just slow it down a little bit. All these rotations coming in, teams are scrambling. I mean, there's nothing to take. Danawa, they try to go and take a center spot, try and kick away the guys that they're going up against here. But they're making a spot. Look at the way that these are newcomers. Again, the vehicle goes past Mira. He dodges it. He like jumps to the side and dodges the vehicle. Immediately, teammates pull up, comes to help. They were anticipating the push to come in from the south because, as we said before, there was so much room, but there was only one team down there. So they were sitting down here anticipating a southern push, but these guys came all the way around to make the push all the way up over the top. Now they're sitting really, really well in the position that they are. One gets knocked on both sides to get the flush and get all the and get everyone but one guy safe. Elka, vehicle, get away. Mirror, right now, Smoke, he realizes. And again, this is from a team that just made it to PL, and this is the reason, PKL, this is the reason I highlighted, because oftentimes the teams that are new don't, I mean, it takes, I want to say a few weeks maybe even, but at least a few days of games for them to get up to the same speed at which the knowledgeable PKL teams are playing at, right? So they realize immediately, we have to prioritize here. What do we want? Do we want the compound, or do we want to have the open spot? If we stay in the open, there's a chance we can hold it, but we already lost one player, and we have Smoke off on the other side, so for him to even traverse over here, that's gonna be scary. So what they do is they immediately send their players back to where they were before, with the new circle popping. They say, you know what, we cannot hold this any longer. And this creates a void, a big hole in the middle, and that's where it gets... because I talked to Clinton Beta Paperthin, one of the smart Korean guys that I got to cast with, and he told me they don't really pull up on things in Korea. Like, they don't over aggress on things. That's why OP, you saw them have a 3-way split on the northern side early. Nobody contested it, and it creates a void in here. There's a center available. There's a center spot available that you can play from, but nobody dares to take it. People don't dare crash the center and take that new spot. You can see everyone's trying to make the move up forward, but no one can get there. If we look at the circle that I have drawn right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams are sitting around it. How would you even get there? How would you even get there? Unless, if you're that one team, because I can only come up with, based on today's games and based on what we've seen over the last phase, I can only come up with one team other than VSG. VSG could do these things, but they're in a really bad spot already and have lost players too. I can come up with one team that can do this. Oh, nope, they haven't lost anyone yet, but they will soon. That can do these things. It's either VSG or it's NC's Ace. Right? They're right here. They have none scout. They haven't been able to see anything, and look at the rotation they pull off now. Over the top, up the middle, boom. When I saw this happen, I said to Clinton, I think if they don't win this game, I think they just guaranteed themselves a top spot. Because at this point, look at this. We still have 16 teams in. We've only lost 7 players so far. And they just crashed it. They did something Korean teams in general never do. And they end up getting a perfect spot. Because nobody dares go there. Nobody dares crash it. Now they see the vehicles. Now it's guaranteed that they're not going to go. These guys can't push up because Compound will see on one side and OP will contain on the other. There's no point at all for Geeks to leave. Same thing with Quantum. There's no reason for them to leave. And NC's Ace just committed to it, got it. Great play by them, and it's going to come to benefit them in the end. But we'll let the game unfold. VSG, they ran around the side, tried to see if there was something available on the inside. Clearly, there wasn't. And then they just go to play it slow. VSG is never scared to play on the edge. They'll take the fights they have to. You see here, 3 guys cross over. Juanita stays on the backside of the tree, tries to cover as they cross. And they have world class. And I mean, this is a 2-way split compound where you have world class on the plateau below, and you have the geeks on the top floor, on the top plateau, I guess you can say, of the compound. And they just start splitting out. Same thing here in the middle. They're never stale. Ace, they're never stale. And I kind of, if it's okay with you guys, because we'll see everything that happens, but I want to keep my focus on NC's Ace this game. They play it just the way they, like throughout the whole game, the way they maneuver around, it's really, really impressive to watch. They're never a turret. Like, they're constantly on the go. You see, one knock comes in, oh no, OP comes up, immediately over and help out, assist, Joy runs back. it's one of those, you know, you guys probably know it from when you play when you play PUBG, right? If you have a position and someone says, oh, there's a guy 250, whatever, southeast, something like that, everyone just turns over and starts looking over in that direction, and in the meantime, someone shoots them in the back of their head, right? In this case, Joy knows they needs the help, but at the same time, he needs to be able to maintain and make sure that no one is pushing from behind, because at this point of the game, they know we need to control. We need to take full control of the center of the circle, and you can only, that's why we saw GSP leave. You can only play this center with 4 guys alive in this situation. They know the importance of getting the reses up, so throw the smokes, commit 2 guys down to get him back up on his feet, back off immediately. There's no point for them to take a head-on fight in this cluster. They'll keep their distance as long as they can keep them pushed away, as long as they can maintain that kind of buffer that they're getting here. You can see like this is a buffer zone down to that guy, and they're maintaining this kind of buffer zone towards people on the other side too. As long as they can maintain that, they can play it. As long as it's only DMRs and keeping fights at a distance, then they have a good chance of holding it. And even more so now, because look down south what happens. It's all about the priorities. You have to know, even though, oh no, the compound can see us, and yes, you can probably take some shots at the compound too. Is that the important fight to take, or is it a fight that you can postpone till later? Because they won't get anything out of it. Even if you knock Ilka inside one of the houses, he's just gonna get rest anyway. It won't benefit you other than knowing, oh, what team it is in there, and most likely now he's knocked once. I mean, you won't get a whole lot from it. So what they do here, Ace, now that they see this circle pop up, they're gonna play edge. And what do? Boom, spread. Alpha knows that from this spot they had before, odds are that they won't have this shack in any longer, and the vehicles are parked down here. The vehicles are parked in this spot. Oops. In this spot down here. They need those for cover. If this next, like, it's just about thinking that one circle ahead. If this compound is gonna be in, if any of this hill is gonna be in, they will need that vehicle for cover later. So Alpaca takes his vehicle, boom, sends it up to the downhill side, immediately runs back to help his teammates once a Freak's Fatal come pushing on up. Gets a knock onto one, he had a good off angle. Now OP Gaming comes up. They're gonna start doing damage as well. They hold them off. VSG is coming up to third party in the same time, and look at how they maintain their split. It's pretty much just a line across the, that's a wrong color to choose. It's pretty much just a line across the map of how Ensis Ace hold them off. And the reason they don't see anyone pushing up here is because they'd be visible to the Quattro players. So they know we don't have to extend over. Like, our vision right now is this. They're not expecting a push coming in from a team on the backside. So right now their focus point is this. And look at the way they're split, the way they're holding it. They never go too far. They never overextend. They just hold. And they do it extremely well. Now VSG comes up. It becomes really, really dangerous. They do manage to take them out. And they managed to survive with 2 guys. But considering the fact that they had a potential of 5 teams crashing them at one point, even with Quattro pushing up late as well, and they get out of that with, I believe at this point, 7 or 8 kills, and still have 2 guys alive with a technical potential of winning a game, that is pretty impressive to say the least. So great game by Ensis Ace, and also on the top here for the Geeks. I mean, and again, they're a team that just made it to PKL. They haven't been used to playing these guys before. So they know they have to hold off as much. It's the same thing that goes the other way. They could start shooting in towards Ace. They might even be able to get themselves a flush on one player, should they be lucky. But they know that we cannot look inward before we have dealt with what's on the outside. We have to deal, like, this has to be 1, and this is 2, priority-wise. We cannot make a push here if we know there's a potential we can get backstabbed at some point. It's going to ruin everything they have planned, so they need to commit to getting the finishes off towards them once they realize, because you see shots fired here, once they realize that VSG is pushing over the eastern side, it's like, good, now they're out of the picture, now we take our focus towards World Class Squad, I believe their name is. Up here, they push out of the compound, they go aggressive on it. Once they get the first knock from inside the building, boom, units down, they immediately push out of the compound to get the kills on towards the opponents on the top side. And once they've cleared them, boom, back inside the compound again, push around, and then they backtrack VSG, who then ended up dying, but they backtrack what was remaining of them, because they know, well, I mean, if VSG could make it down here without being contested, that means that there's no one there, right? They can push around that side, and that is a place that you just do not see very often from newcoming teams. Having that understanding and playing to such a level is very, very hard to do, and it's very, very impressive to see happen. And then after this, of course, a lot of teams get eliminated real quickly, so we're down to only 9 players alive for a lot of time. I think at this point, Quattro only had 1 or 2 kills. Because they, I mean, obviously they had played Yellow Houses for a while and you can't really look uphill that well from down there. So they had little info, didn't want to overcommit. They tried pushing up. In the end, I believe they win themselves a 3v1. Yep, they get themselves the win. But overall, it's actually Geeks who end up taking the win because of the kills that they had in it. So very interesting game 1 to start the phase. Second circle was a tough one. We saw the shift come in, boom, there, eliminating a lot of landmass available, a lot of water included, and hard rotations. And the only reason that Ensis Ace ends up getting into a top 3 situation, actually get themselves, yeah, I believe a 3rd place and 9 kills, I think, or 7 or 8 kills in that game. The only reason that worked out for them is because they dare. They went in, they crashed it, they took the fight, and they got themselves a spot. Extremely well played, and a very, very interesting first match of the day as well. So that was game number 1. Then we will do like this. And again, if you have any questions, please let me know. Orange, know what API reader am I using? You can do it like this. Then you will get the link to where you can get all the info, if that's what you're asking. And also, if you other guys, if you have any questions, let me know. But that was game 1, and now let's take it over to Sanhok, because yeah, that was interesting. For game number 2. Welcome, guys. I just want to say welcome to the first ever Sanhok PUBG analysis video. It's this one. That's yeah, that's happening now. And I think there's a lot of things that we can take away from this that will most likely be repeated very often in a lot of different senses. So first of all, if you compare land masses, we can just cut off right here. If we compare land masses, this island takes up over half of Sanhok. And has a very big chance of getting the circle on towards it. So obviously the majority of teams are going to go over here. And the teams that don't go here are going to be playing from either close to the river. So we're talking Painan, or like, I was actually surprised no one went to this compound. But they're going to play either really close, or they're going to say, you know what? We're going to go miles out on the edge. We're not going to have anything to do with anything. And then we'll make late rotations, which is dangerous, but we'll see if it pans out for anyone anyway. So at the same time, center, because Sanhok is that much smaller, is absolutely important to play around. So Ensis Force, they say, you know, we need that center. We go contest it, and they fight it really, really early. They go up against the Stardom team, and see Doya pushes over. Indigo and Kale try to push over to the compound too. World class. I mean, everyone just wants to go center early on Sanhok, and that's what I was expecting anyway. So everyone goes center. We had 2 teams in boot camp, but none of them ever really started fighting. Afrika Freaks Ares, they take a boat all the way around. Same thing happening for TVG. They're following them in their trails. Because, I mean, they're just saying, we are not crossing this river. That is a big no-no. We are going all the way around, and they come swinging in right behind them. They're going to go around. In the meantime, I don't know. It's just extremely interesting and tough at the same time to do proper analysis of Sanhok because it as clustered as it is. But VSG, they say, you know what? I think we can break it down to 2 things. Two things. Roads and rivers are probably, since people don't really use vehicles, we saw it used twice, and both the people that were driving got killed. So since people don't use vehicles, you don't have that quick crossing of open space. And I mean, like, how would you play Miramar if there were no vehicles? You would just be running around in the open, and you'd be a stale target for the most of the time. So roads and rivers are the 2 absolute kryptonites of a PUBG player on Miramar. And that's what everyone is doing what they can to avoid. And at the same time, I think VSG in this position, they just want to line up a potential I mean, they have so much road control now that if they see anyone cross, I mean, roads are pretty much the only really open area. So they have full view of 3 road sides, which means they will know who went where. Did they go that way? Did they go that way? Did they go that way? They will know who went where in all of that, which means that's crucial info for them to get. Also, they'll potentially have a chance to shoot at people that are in the open and don't really have a chance to shoot back on towards them. So great position for VSG to be in. Good control to take for them. Enters Force, of course, center. Quarry, no one is going inside it. Makes perfect sense. It's a really, I mean, everyone, as I said in the cast as well, everyone can jump into Quarry. That's not really the hardest thing. It's getting out of there again. There are only so many places you can exit. There's a up there, there, and then you have like 2 or 3 spots down here you can leave, but that's about it. Everything else is pretty hard place to get out of once you get stuck in there. So the circle shrinks on in. Everyone on the edge starts fighting. I think when we were down to 5 teams left alive, all the teams that were eliminated were edge teams. We never had a center conflict. Because once Ensis Force claimed this, once the guys in Stardom claimed this, and VSG pushes over and takes this, these 4 compounds, I guess 5 technically, but these 4 teams, they never move a muscle. They just stay until they know they have to leave. I guess that's what everyone does. But in this one in particular, it just becomes hard because all of a sudden you have 1, 2, 3, 4 teams on the southern side, but your entry point, because you don't want to sit here. Because if you sit here and the circle goes anywhere but on towards you, you know you will have to cross Quarry or go into it, and you can't run back around this way because that's going to be in blue. You don't have time to go all the way over, so the only point you have of access to the circle on the western side would be through Quarry, and that's just a no-go for the most part. So somehow Ares and Fatal, they run side by side, don't go into engagements. Afrika Freaks Fatal, they jump in at some point, and Ares try to run around the side. GSP, they're running on the southern side, trying to get around. And then one thing that's interesting, and I believe, because a fight happens up here immediately after where Gen G gets eliminated, but I'm looking for... One second. I'm looking because DD, the DPG Danawa team, they all get eliminated by the blue. And I'm just looking to find them somewhere. Where the hell is DD? Why am I blind? Oh, okay, so they're up there. Good. There they are. Thank you, game. So DD is sitting on the eastern side as they come crashing on down. Watch this. Instead of, because they know it as well, this is a no-go. You cannot go through here. There's no way in hell you're surviving a push through here. You're running immediately into compounds on the other side, and it's gonna get you killed. So what DD does is say, we can't go this way, we can't go that way, we've been shot at by these guys, we have to go over. We need to cross over. So APK comes up to control them. And what happens is they all in blue say, you know what, not gonna happen. And they all 4 of them ends up going down to the blue. Hayes, thanks for the host. I have my alerts turned off when I do these videos, but thank you so much. And they welcome, you're coming into game 2. We're in Sanhok. Yes, we are doing professional PUBG analysis of a Sanhok game. That's what the world's come to. And it's great. Because it's chaos, as predicted. And now, what was before, you cannot get in because Quarry is now, everything on the east side is Quarry. I mean, if you're in Quarry now, you might have a chance to do something. If not, then, yeah. Odds are you won't get out of there if you're in there now. Depending, and this is where it gets funny, on what these teams do. Because VSG, they're now forced to make a leave. Stardom, technically, have to leave as well. And Ensis Force, they can stick around for a little longer alongside the guys in SKT1. What happens here is that the teams, and we when before we started with the whole Sanhok thing, people were saying Sanhok is simple. If you're on the edge, you're gonna die. If you have to cross a compound, you're gonna die. If you have to do anything but chill in one spot, you're most likely gonna die. And if we go to the very end game here, the 4 teams that we have alive in this, I guess you should say 3 of 4, as the Freak of Freaks team gets eliminated. The only team in the top 4 that were not sitting on a compound from Circle 1 is a Freak of Freaks, because they went Quarry. And I think the reason they got to run through Quarry is one of those situations, just like with center compounds that are never taken, where people are like, oh, you don't go. I mean, there are games. I think there was a game on PEL where Bisa or James was it run around miles out in the open, and I was like, why is no one shooting this guy? He's miles out in the open. But that was one of those where people go, well, no one would ever do that, so why would I even look there? You know? And I think this is the same case. I think people really thought no one's gonna go Quarry. Also, we cannot peek into Quarry, then we're screwed by all the other guys. So they let them play from there in the end game, and made the leave on out, and then it became a Hell and an ACAT show. I mean, they were doing really, really well in the end. Everyone's trying to contain a Freak of Freaks. Ensis Force, they were on a high ground position, which is good, but because there's so many trees, people could see their feet before they could see them. They get shot as they try to make the run on down from there, and yeah, SKT ends up winning the game in the end with 2 guys alive and 1 knocked player in the end. But interesting finish. And just, I guess it just goes to confirm everything that we've been talking about, that Sanhok is, I mean, at least this game, it's only been 1 game, but so far, Sanhok has given us exactly what we expected. Edge fights, edge fights, edge fights, people in the center doing nothing, edge fights, edge fights, edge fights. That's, I think that's what people are going to be in for. On the contrary to that, if you can take those fights, the thing is, if you want to take edge fights, you have to clear early. You cannot do Circle 5 or Circle 6 edge fights. That's when it gets chaotic. That's when there's way too many teams. So if you can do it in Circle maybe 2 or Circle 3, you already like sprintingly start clearing your edges, so you know you have just somewhat of a buffer zone on the edges. Let me just rewind a little so I can put it into perspective. If one of these teams up here starts engaging in a fight now, you're 99.9% sure that another team is going to come third party. Same thing everywhere else. Teams are going to come third party if they see a fight happening right next to them. But if you start doing it here, there's a chance, like if you start clearing here, there's a chance you might be able to get rid of teams before, and I'm not saying this is how teams are going to do it or it's how they necessarily should, but I think it's could potentially like force yourself take engagements before, because normally when you see Miramar or Erangel, by the time we hit Circle 4, unless if it's like a really crazy shift or something weird has happened, then normally we have 50 plus people alive when Circle 4 hits. Maybe we just go just under 50, but somewhere around there. I think if somehow by forcing people to be more aggressive, we could have 35 alive in a Sanhok game, it becomes much more doable. But because people are playing passive and don't want to go down early, obviously, then it's going to become a hell show no matter what. Like, no matter how you do it. It's the same as rotation velocity on the second circle, it's only free, you get path through. Yeah, exactly. If you dare do it, there's a downside of people potentially camping it, but there is for sure a benefit to the ones who dare. But I think that's the definition of Sanhok on this. You need to clear edges early, or you need to get compounds. That's one of the two. Either you get your compounds and you win, or have a chance to win, or you don't and you're dead. That was game 2. We'll jump straight into game number 3 of the day. Back over to something we've seen a little more of. Miramar. That's it's a little more comfortable area, I would say, to play around. And I think and hope most of you guys will agree with me as well. That's a little more playable, this area of the map. Oh, this I guess just map in general, but a northern plain though, so we'll have a lot of area on the south that won't really be contested, or at least most likely won't. And that's gonna be interesting because we get this circle to start off with. And now I know every one of you is saying, "Oh my lord, Toby, this is gonna be a island circle." And I know, well, the players are thinking the exact same thing too, because there's a very, very big chance, or not a big chance, but there's a chance that it could end up going out here. And they, of course, have to keep that in mind. So it becomes just like with rivers, when you have those games that are completely split in between the two rivers, it's one of those, would we rather be on the island and have to go in again? Or would we rather be in and have to go to the island? Let me know what you guys think. What would you rather? In a circle where there's a chance that it could go do just that? What would you rather? Be on the island when it's like not a 50-50, but when there's a chance of both, and go in? Or be in and go to the island? And you can comment on YouTube as well what you think. I personally think, as Hayes is saying now as well, I personally think that I would rather be on the island and then have to go back. And we'll see how these teams adapt to it, because normally we talk entry points and cities. It was actually a perfect example that Hayes brought up just now. Teams don't go through cities. Los Leones here, El Azahar here, Minas as well. More teams rotate through Minas, but these are 3 choke points that you don't really want to get yourself into early on, which means that it leaves just this passage open to cross in, this passage open. And remember, there's no team south yet, so this is open, but for teams to go Monte Nuevo all the way down underneath, it's going to take a long time. And then you have a small passage here because all of this is unplayable. So this is what we have available to rotate through. Not a whole lot of space, because normally with edge circles you just go on the other side and you come in from here, but obviously with a lot of water and they being half the circle, not half, but a lot of the circle not being playable, you can't really get there. You won't be able to do that. So let's see as these teams come rotating in. Obviously, STA, they're already in this area. They can just go around. Teams go over the top. Teams go through the middle. As I said, by avoiding, and that's the thing, right? By avoiding choke points, you create choke points. That's the, oh no, we can't do this, so we should go here. But like, people are avoiding this because that is where it gets clustered and dangerous. But because they then all go here, then this becomes the cluster. So what was the easy enough shift becomes the cluster shift. And that's why we see so many teams end up being forced to take fights, and some of them forcing themselves to go through rotation spots that they probably wouldn't have wanted to if just think stupid. The worst thing is, Hayes, that might not even be the worst idea. So we saw a few teams go through and no middle game, no island game. No one was out there to begin with anyway, so I guess no one was expecting that to ever actually be a thing. But no island game after all. It does go back. And then we get down here. And we've done analysis. I think this is probably the area on Miramar, at least through phase 1 and 2, that we've seen the most in the Pro League, where you get this field. And I'm going to draw it up just for you guys because it's an interesting one. It's going to go something like this. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 compounds. Make that 5. 5 compounds, 6. Sorry. 6 compounds. We've lost 5 players so far. And then you have the spot that Esther is sitting right now, here in the middle. That is, you can see the crossroad goes there, and then there's a dirt road that goes across. You can kind of play from there, but if you don't have vision or knowledge on teams around you, it becomes really easily, like you very easily are in for a really hard time. And there are areas around here, like there are ridge lines around that you can play. But if you don't have your areas around you secured, people can play on the high grounds up here. People can play from the high ground over here and see across with a scope. You can see from Impala, Church, Hillside down towards you. It's too risky to take these spots early on, all these different dips and whatnot out here. So you have a big area of the map that only works in certain situations. Of course, the compounds is an exception. That's why I've marked them with green, that you can play from no matter the situation, because it's a compound. But a lot of areas that are extremely tough to play around if you don't have like part of where you are excluded. If you're playing, like let's say the circle is here, then of course you can play here, because I mean there's not going to be anyone. The blue is here, right? So you only really have to focus on this. Then you can play with no, like with your back safe. But when the circle is as big as it is now, it's practically impossible to take center if you don't have a compound, which means that all these teams that are trying to go in either have to crash each other, take a, not a YOLO fight, but take a dangerous fight, or do something very, very similar to it. So it becomes a circle where normally, had it been anywhere else, a lot more teams could fit the center. But if we remove this drawing real quick, we can see that in all of this, which is kind of sort of the center of the circle, we have one, maybe two teams in there. And it's not even a full team because the other half is down the bottom. So the center is extremely open, which forces teams to be way further out on the edges. Some teams are splitting. You can see VSG, they're taking full control. They're just saying, you know what, this road is ours. And just like with everything else in PUBG, roads are death points. I mean, especially late game when all the vehicles are kind of not used anymore, roads become you want to be on the right side of the road. Let's leave it at that. You want to be on the right side of the road. New circle shifts. We're going down south. How much analysis like this do pro teams do between tournaments? I think it's very individual, Blink, from team to team. But if they don't do, I mean, I don't even think I'm doing a lot. So if the teams don't do what I do, then they're missing out on gaining a lot of information, I think. Impala still in play. You have the hillside up here where you can play from some of the areas, but it's difficult. And then we get down to VSG, and now we talked VSG and NSS Ace in the first Erangel game, how they dare to do different things and how they sometimes maybe overcommit a bit, which can sometimes give them a really, really good situation. Like, it's a risk reward type things, where sometimes it works really well and sometimes it doesn't work at all. And I think that's exactly what happens here, because we have Hulk going down for info. They've heard the vehicles. They want to secure the south. They want to be able to say, we're drawing a line. If we have to go, we're drawing a line. If we have to go up here, we want to know that we have no one playing from behind us. So they're doing everything they can to make sure the south is clear. They're staying extremely split despite it. I mean, it's only phase 3, but it's there's so little landmass available that having a split at this point can become really dangerous, especially when it's as wide as they have here. Juanita and Danche are on the western side. Hulk is by himself, and yes, you can say, but Star-Lord is right next to him. They don't see each other. They cannot see each other from here. Star-Lord is inside a garage house. Hulk is on the other side of the road. And there are big dips here. And all of a sudden now, Rage from the hilltop, he's the most important member of Griffin's Black right now. He's sitting up here really, really high up and above and providing a ton of information for 2Hard, for 2Tap, and for Ojungjae. He's giving them a ton of info on exactly what's going on in the VSG camp. He gets the knock on towards Hulk. Really good from that distance, by the way, with an SLR. And out comes Juanita to help him. And keep in mind, this is the first knock on Hulk. This is the first time they even fight VSG. He gets knocked, and right off the bat, Juanita and Danche goes, open ending, we need to get him up right now. They hard commit over, but they barely even know where Rage is, and they don't know where any of these guys are. So they're hard committing to arrest in a situation where they probably could have bought themselves some more time, because they knew the knock came in from afar. I mean, Hulk knew it wasn't the guy that was standing 5 meters away from him. So they know it's not like someone is going to be here in 2 seconds to flush me situation. Now, Ojungjae pushes up, and in the meantime, Star-Lord, now he's isolated. Whenever Ojungjae gets control of the road, Star-Lord is isolated. Rage can see him. Ojungjae can hold him. 2Hard is there to help. Fortunately, I guess you can say for VSG, 2Tap gets taken down when he's trying to cross because ABK comes up from behind. But VSG are hard committing 2 guys to getting up a player without any cover because Star-Lord is isolated. In the meantime, it changes roles, where before Rage was the one providing info for his team. Like, he was the info gatherer, while Ojungjae and 2Heat could push up and fight. Now they're the ones holding while Rage just does his thing, because these guys are not covered from all angles. Yayaba can shoot from afar. Rage can shoot from up here, and there's just, I mean, he can see them throughout the whole thing. You should go see the video of the actual replay. He can just boop, 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 tap down towards them with SLR. There's nothing they can do because these guys are containing Star-Lord. Really, really great play from Griffins, and it's something that you don't really see too often. Really, really impressive play. So now that he has all the info, they can push up, get the clear out on him. Star-Lord still contained in the building. APK come over the top to try and flush them. And they have to react quickly now, because all of a sudden, Roa, solo player out of nowhere, not a solo, his teammates are there, but they're not nearby, start shooting at Rage. Now they lost their eye in the sky. Now they don't have the uphill info any longer. So now Ojungjae and 2Heat or too hard on their own. Fortunately, ABK, they can't really overcommit to the fight, so they move around. And, well, I mean, they know where he was. Take him down. That's VSG out of the picture. And now they can move safely in because Rage has been sitting up here providing info for so long that they know now what's clear and what's not. So they make a move on forward in. In the meantime, this fight becomes a... I compared this circle to a T-bone steak because of the way that this... because of the way that the roads cut it off. It's a three-way split with very little space in the bottom. And if you're caught at this point on the wrong side of the circle, odds are that you're doomed. Another thing is, you have two teams in the south, make that one team and one solo. And then you have one team on the west, and over here you have the remaining 6 teams. This is not easy. This is not easy at all. At all. 6 teams in it. Afrika Freaks, they have to contain. I mean, sure, they're benefited by the fact that all these guys are also fighting each other. It's not like everyone against Afrika Freaks, but everyone is looking in there like that is where we're going. You cannot just stay out here, especially with this shift. They need to make a move. Loki and Pio, if you guys missed it, which you obviously did because we didn't talk about it just now, they just wiped 4 guys, whoops, from Quattro. They won game 1, they just slaughtered them 2v4. Great play. Go see it in the replay. But Circle closes in. There's not a lot to talk about from an analysis perspective from above. They just played it well, and Quattro played it really bad. So, they play well from the top. The elimination comes in on towards Damwong. And still, Afrika Freaks Fatal never lose like their composure. They never lose control. Same time, OP Gaming, OPGG it's called now. It's esports. Make some really smart rotations. They're always like, they're a rotating team. They never get many kills. Or rarely get many kills. I think at this point they have 1 kill in the game so far, if any, actually. This push comes. I actually, you know what? I'll bring you this. I'll show you this, guys, on stream, just because it was absolutely insane. Let me just. I want to show you this. This play, where all of a sudden a 3-man team gets is gone. I'll show this one to you while we're doing this. Come to the shack. They're trying to nade. Up. Come to the shh. Okay, watch this. Watch this play. This is. I want to have your guys' reaction to it as well. Watch this play. Come to the shack. They're trying to nade over a little rogue vehicle, potentially running a guy over on the backside. Could be damage. Ooh, what are they gonna do with these nades? Did it bounce in? Oh, it did! Oh, it did! Wow! Could be. Actually, I know he gets so it's not an intentional 360, but this is already a throw through these windows. Like when you throw nades through these windows, that is already something that you see missed pretty often. You see these nades being like doink, bounce off the side and fall off to whatever pretty often. And he gets okay. So he cook. I think what happens is he cooks the nade, right? You can see he's cooking it to be ready to throw. He gets shot at. Then oh no, he gets shot at. So he has to run back down the hill again. And then when he gets down, he's like he looks at his hand and he's like, oh no, I still have the cooked nade in my hand. So he just turns around, flicks it in there, and by the time it gets in, he just nails it. Did it bounce in? Actually a clutch play. Just perfect play by Ojonje. It's just amazing how he comes back down like 180s away, comes back down like, oh no, I still have the nade, flings it and gets 3 kills. That is that's absolutely amazing. So they get eliminated. All of a sudden, Griffin Black have full control of the south, but they need to make sure that the team of Stardom and other teams don't make the cross down here. They need to make sure that they don't push here. They need to somehow force them into the compound. You see, Too Hard, boom, he's there immediately. You need to sit here and make sure these guys do not come over. In the meantime, I mean, OPGG, they can just chill because there's no one on their side either. So, but this Too Hard position becomes important because they would have had a chance to push down this way, but it doesn't happen. So they run up into the compound. And then in this situation, look at this. We have 3 different teams. Ensis Ace, Stardom, and 2 players from Gen G, who has just 2v4'd a full team. They're now all looking to push, because once one team pushes in, the other teams are going to push into third party, right? They are all looking to push into this compound. This is the second to last game blade. There's one more after this one. They're all looking to push inside this compound. And look at the way they contain them. 2 guys doing a lot of damage. Of course, they're shooting at each other as well, so that helps out a little bit. But they all get eliminated. And then you would think, because I mean, nades are thrown, smokes are thrown, everything's going crazy, players are getting knocked all over the place. Then you would think, because Pio and Loki plays it perfectly, we just gotta sneaky peeky make our way on in. But they all know what's happening already. And then you're dedicated to hold off these guys. Shadow, you hold any pressure coming up here. I mean, they're so coordinated in the way that they play. And Style Lambo, you hold anything coming here. Look at the way that they're... You can just tell if we bounce it off like this. Look at the way they're moving. They never overcommit. PO sneaks in. The commitment is perfect. They are executing this perfectly. Now, Style does get knocked, but they managed to get 4 guys up alive. After having just been breached by 3 teams at the same time. 2 3-man teams and a duo. They all breach the same one compound, and the Freak of Freaks don't lose a single player and get 8 kills or something like that. 7 kills, I think, off of it. Actually insane hold by a Freak of Freaks. Really, really impressive. And you don't really see it when it's just nades everywhere and kill feed going crazy. But they played this extremely well. Now down in the bottom, these guys, of course, have to leave. They have Mental isolated. He's trying to hold. He sees that a Freak of Freaks cross over, but that also leaves his position exposed. They try shooting at him. Too Hot goes down. A John Jay, once again, Clutchmeister coming in from the side with a little help from NN on the top. 3 teams now left alive. A Freak of Freaks on the top. OP Gaming, and I'm not sure because OP Gaming they had everything here. The fact that there are 4 guys alive when the circle is here. The fact that there are 4 guys alive. 4 guys, and all they have to do is make sure nobody crosses the road. That's all they have to do. They allow the vehicle through, they allow 2 through. Maverick is up there holding off by himself. They overextend. They overextend too hard. And all of a sudden now there are 3 guys up and alive. And despite everything, they end up getting a 3rd place in this game. Very, very... I mean, you could tell in their faces after the game too. They knew they had it. They knew they had a good chance, but they end up going down. Too Hard tries to come over and get a teammate up. Not going to happen. He goes down, and a Freak of Freaks Fatal win the game. And, I mean, these 2 teams honestly were the 2 teams to deserve the win. I would argue, probably, I mean, despite them having a really good hold, GB deserved it even more. The way that they played the South early, because, I mean, a Freak of Freaks, it's 2 completely different ways to get to the end game. A Freak of Freaks were contained in this compound for the longest of time. And GB, they just play from the very start to the end. It's just smart from the start to the end. The way that they push this one down with Rage up top, that's the same team we're talking about, them getting contested earlier. It's the same team where they end up getting a 2nd place. They never have a compound. They get shifted away from all the time, and they get a 2nd place. Really, really impressive game from GB. And also Freak of Freaks, because they're just, I mean, just sitting in the compound for a while, but it also takes a good team to be able to maintain a center position. But impressive. I mean, these guys, Griffin Black, really, really good game 3 for them. So that was the 3rd game. That was the 3rd game. I hope you are following along and that you're enjoying the analysis. One more game on the day, and I don't know why we just went out of that, but we'll just find our way back to games. PKL, where are you? It's under phase 1, but it's actually phase 2. They know where both teams are. They don't try to go for the road bridge. Yeah, exactly. They have to. They need to cross. In order to play it, they need to cross. They knew there was a team on the south, and they had a team on the other side. If they go down south, they're going to get, like, what do you say? Not swamped, but they're going to get crashed upon. And, or like sandwiched. They had to go over the top in order to be the ones to, like, hold the entire south open. Really smart plays. But as I said, both teams played it super, super well. It's a scary, I'm telling you guys, this is a scary region, like really, really scary region. Now, anyway, game 4 is starting. I'll take a sip of coffee. Game number 4. Miramar once again. Next day, it's going to be 2 games of Erangel and then 1 game of Miramar. But there's always 1 game of Sanhok in the mix. Circle. Boom. North we go. It was a pretty straightforward plane, so no one's going to go hard commit Monte. I mean, further down the Monte is GSP. So, or freaks. Or geeks. There's both freaks and geeks in this game. It's a crazy group of people. But no one's gonna hard commit south, obviously, with the plane or with the circle popping north. So, and these circles, they're always interesting. Mountains, 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 mountain. Plenty of mountains up north, and everything you see that is asphalt or pavement. What do you call it? Asphalt? It's just called asphalt, right? What do you call the stuff that a road is made out of in English? I don't know. Asphalt. Yeah, it is asphalt. I was like, In any case, everything you see that is asphalt and not a dirt road is lowland. Everything here, tarmac, I guess. Yeah, concrete. Yeah, I don't know. Not concrete. That's 2 different things. Asphalt and concrete is not the same. It kind of looks like Africa, doesn't it? In any case, everything you see road-wise is in the lowland. It's in the valley. So whenever you see teams rotate on vehicles down here, that's a no situation. We still have a lot of areas with open fields that are only really secured, just like down here with the few compounds that are in there. And other than that, as I said, hillsides everywhere. San Martin, Hacienda, those are yikes to rotate through. You can go over Minas, but that's yet, as we said again, one of those cluster points that you kind of want to avoid. New circle pops. Hard shift. A game of PUBG with a hard shift. What is this? In any case, we go back down south, and already now, these. If you split this map in half, we can cut it open. I know it's not exactly half, but we'll cut it over right here. And this, I think, is where we really see. We saw it in game 1. OPGG, they split. They're never really contested in it. We saw it in game number, not 2, because they were on the edge, but game number 3, they were splitting. Nobody dared contest them. And now here in game number 4, look at the amount of room they're allowed to have. Because if we write down here, we'll write high, and this is low. That's pretty much the terrain difference. So if you're up here right now, you can see everything. Outside you're gonna get shot at, but you can see everything that is out in this direction. If you have this position and you have a 15 times scope, you know exactly which compound to go for. Pio, and it's kind of sad. Keep in mind that Pio actually had this compound. He went up to scout, but he leaves again. He had this one. He was gonna go there, but he goes back. Keep it in mind. They're rotating, and then they rotate back together once more. Now watch this. OPGG, they go down to a 2-way split. You can do that in phase 2. Should be doable. You can keep your splits in phase 2. Even though there aren't many compounds available in the center, it's still, I mean, it makes decent enough sense to have your 2-way split kept through phase 2. VSG come in late. They had really crappy loot. Now the circle 3, we go further out into the field, and also with the line that we drew before, we go out into the lowland, which means that all these guys that are up here that could, well, potentially get a good angle on towards them, now they know we're locked down in the compounds. We have a good spot because a lot of the high ground is gonna be out at some point soon. Let's just zoom it down a little bit. But still, they're allowed to keep their splits. So what do we have on the eastern side at this point? And that's where, when we talk pressure points, look at how right now it's pretty evenly split. If we draw a line, if we draw a line through the middle of how many teams are on each side, because there's a lot of teams trying to find somewhat of an axis towards the circle, right? I mean, if we draw the line here, there's only 2 compounds in. If we draw the line in the exact center, we have a few more, but none of them are really hard contested. This is just one team. We've got one up here. This is just one team. So only really 3 teams in the mix of having control over any of these compounds. Compounds they're only good as long as you can stay there. Once you have to leave, they become really, really terrible, because then people can just lock you down inside them. So OPGG somehow allowed to, and this is again what we talked to, only NSS Ace and VSG dare make aggressive moves. Nobody dares. I don't even know if people scout and notice that there's only 2. So as good as they are, people and teams in PUBG from Korea, rotation-wise and knowledge-wise, that I think that is their flaw. That is the flaw, at least right now. It could just be because it's day 1 and everyone's trying to kind of feel the group and all that stuff. You have open compound south, and these 2 are split. I mean, up top, that's something else because you know that there's not going to be a lot of teams there. But there's so many teams down here. None of them just say, you know what, let's just go. They all played, not scared necessarily, but way different than how I would assume it to be done in PEL or NPL for that sake. So they all take fights out on the edge now for seemingly not really much of a reason. Gen G, they're going to go up again. Now, finally, OP Gaming gonna commit down to 1 compound. Gen G, they have a good spot up here they can sit in. In the meantime, they're scouting forward. Shadow, he flips his vehicle there. That's unfortunate, so he can't get down to the compound. Gen G realizes this is open. Now we can take it. Gen G, smart team as well. Realize what's open, go to take it, and all of a sudden, bada bing, bada boom. This is probably the worst shift in the universe. Because all of a sudden, before we said that if we cut the circle in half on any angle, it was a pretty 50-50 split between teams. But if we cut the circle in half, we have, if we don't count Shadow because he's a solo, we have 3 teams here. Like this part of the circle. We'll include him and say 4. 4 teams here in what seems to be a good half of the circle. And more than half of the next circle. And then we have 10 teams on the west side. Because everyone was forced to take fights early and the teams that didn't dare rotated all the way around, we have now 10 teams on the west side who not only have to push down, but because Dumbway can peek over the top, they can just tap at everything. Everyone's fighting. Everything's a fight. We have 10 teams on the west side that have to figure out what they want to do in this game. Extremely tricky situation to be in for a lot, if not all, the teams that are currently outside the circle. Because not only do they have to get inside the circle, but there's nothing to take. Once you hit the edge anywhere pretty much, it's either an open field or visible to either the compound or the guys from above. And since they're not currently being contested by anyone, they just cleared Gen G, they don't really have anyone to contest with, they have all the room in the world to just start shooting out towards people. Because they know outside that if the circle goes away from them, they probably won't make it down alive. So harvest now while we can. And then we see DD try and cross. They end up being completely annihilated at some point real soon. They go down. In the meantime, DGW, I mean, Damwa, they have to take control. I mean, they need to make space for themselves, especially now that Circle has shifted away. And then we have 3 teams and compounds. Keep these teams in mind. 1, 2, 3. Stardom, SKT T1, or SKT1, and OPGG. They're just chilling in their compounds. In the meantime, everyone else is fighting. Everybody is fighting. And I think they don't make an agreement because they're not teaming, obviously, but there's no reason for these guys to fight each other right now. Absolutely no reason. All they need to do is you deal with everyone else. Everyone else you deal with first. And when that's all over and done with, we see who gets the circle, we see who gets the compound. Then we'll make a move. Right now, it's all about, you know what, we'll leave these guys to do their own thing. And then we'll take it from there. So this circle, once again, technically all 3 compounds still in. And right now, as much as Griffins, they just want to wait. They just want to say, can you please start shooting at each other or do something? There's no reason to. There's absolutely no reason to. These 3 teams do anything but try and take out these 2. So not even caring to look over at each other. Even if you get a knock, the rest will come in. They're going to be ready again. So they're just stalling, stalemating until something happens. There's nothing to play for here. They get a tractor for a little while. They go down. And now with the final circle push, that's when things get interesting. That's when it really comes down to it. Because now it's when the team that dares to take control, not always, but most likely ends out on top. You see Maverick. They know they have to cross that road eventually. He crosses to try and get some control runs back. I think there's a crate out here. Gets himself some nifty upgrade gear. Everyone, you see Helen going up to that next hay bale. It's just every single hay bale try and push further. There's no center to crash really at this point. If you go center, you're gonna die. There's nothing to crash. But it's slowly making your way forward. Claw your way in. And the only team who isn't doing any of that, despite being in a somewhat decent position, are the newcomers. When we started the stream, when we started the analysis video, we talked about 3 teams. Dumwa, Stardom, and what's the last name? Geekstar. These guys in Stardom, they were in multiple late game scenarios, but they never dared. They never went out and said, guys, there was not anyone in the team saying, if we sit here, we will die. We need one guy to push out here. We need one guy to go over here. We need one guy to just do anything other than sitting on top of each other. Because if they only have one garage opening to look at and know exactly where to expect all 4 players, there is no way in hell you're going to go out and win that game. So Circle's closing on in. I like the push coming up from T1. And we cannot really see it here, but I mean, obviously with STA not doing anything, Stardom, they just get eliminated because both of the teams get to stall, eliminate them, now they deal with each other. 4v3, now it's a 3v3 actually, 3v2 make that in favor of OPGG. There's a tractor here, you cannot really see it, but there's a tractor there. And this is where Adder just pulls off a hero play. He knows everyone's knocked now. It's him versus 3. No, make that 2. No, it is 3 players. It's Adder versus 3. He's all by himself. All his teammates are down. And of course, Helen is crawling for info. And they're telling Adder, they're all behind the tractor. They're all down here. So what he does, other than push in, really smart play by him first of all, he throws a Molotov, which gets the kill in there. So all of this now is burning, which means that if these guys want to leave, it has to be this way around. Throw a Molotov here. Make sure that they can only, like, you're 1v2. They could just double peek you, you'd die. But nope, not gonna happen. Throw a Molotov, secure one angle, and all of a sudden it's a 1v1. And because he has him isolated for so long on the backside, there's no way he can get out. Now this is isolated too. There's only one angle for him to hold. Gets the finish off, gets the kill. Really great way to win the game by Adder. Sure, you could argue, I mean, SKT1 won the game on Sanhok as well, and that was with a lot of circles going in that direction, but that's PUBG for you sometimes. There's gonna be plenty of games to be played. Sometimes you get the circles, sometimes you don't. These 3 teams sure got a lot of good circles in this game, and to think of Gen G having had this compound available early, and PO decided to drive back, that's of course unfortunate, but that's just how it goes sometimes. But that was the final 4th game. I hope you enjoyed the analysis and the video, and yeah, see you next time.